Hey, this is Andrew Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp bringing you another video. And this time we're going to clean up a bunch of little things because our application, while kind of functional, just has a lot of problems. So like here, we can't close the reply form. We can't do replies. We can't do a lot of stuff. I consider this stuff to be pretty easy to do. If you're not an application developer, you might find this challenging, but it is a good practice to get more coding and basic stuff in practice. So what we want to do is open up our activity form, or actually our reply form, because in here, what we need to do is apply a close event. Now we did this before for our profile form. We made it so that it would close. I'm going to go down there and find that. I think it was called close. And so we have this function here that I'm going to copy. I'm just going to paste it here in our reply form. And then we call that, I think, over here. So I'll just copy that, and we can put it on here as such. And of course, the copy doesn't ever work the way I want it to work. So we have to be very careful here. Right-click copy, right-click paste. This isn't VS Code. This is because we're doing VS Code in a browser and it has trouble with copy-paste. So I'll save that. The question is, does this need to know, it actually got rid of my old one, so I have to copy this again. And I'll paste this in. And in here, this says profile form. I'm going to call this, or profile pop-up. This will be reply pop-up. And then down below here, we'll do reply pop-up. If you don't remember how this works, you have to go back in time and watch that video. So that should resolve that issue. We'll give this a refresh. So we'll do this. And it closes. That is nice. I like that. The next thing is that it should actually allow us to reply and do that. So what we will need is an endpoint. So if we scroll up here, this one goes to, it has activities and then reply. And so that's the endpoint that we defined for that. I want to go over to our backend application, and we will take a look for that. So do we have an endpoint for reply? We apparently do, and it's hard-coded. So of course we don't want that value to be hard-coded. I am kind of getting tired of how messy the code is in here. I wouldn't say it's messy, but it's verbose. And every time we want to have this try claims, we have to do it over and over and over again. It would be really nice if we could set this up as a decorator or something else to reduce the code here. So maybe I'll go look into that. Give me 2 seconds, okay? All right, so I did look up a little bit about the decorators, and they're just very syntactically heavy, and I thought, well, let's see if ChatGPT can do it. This kind of looks like what I was looking at when I was doing stuff. So for the most part, it looks correct. And so I'm going to give it a go and see if this is going to work. If you want to tell ask ChatGPT to do it as well, I'm using Model 4. 3.5 I'm just finding to be useless these days, but I guess, you know, there is a difference when you are trying to do stuff. But anyway, we'll give it a go. It didn't tell me how I'm supposed to import it or use it, but I'm going to take my best guess. I'm going to make a new lib directory here, and I'm going to say, so we have Cognito JWT token. I suppose what we could do, could we just write it in here? So let me see here, because we already have this, right? So maybe what I can do is I can just copy this, and I can just paste this in the bottom here. And the next thing is we need this. This func tools is what is used for making decorators. You know, if you are using Envoy or something else, like another container, that'd be better. But, you know, I don't want to overburden us here. I'll try to just attempt to do a decorator for now to clean up our code. I would love to do the Envoy implementation. I just don't know if there is time for us here because it really will complicate the architecture. But for boot campers that did that, I can tell you that's really great bonus points for those that did that. So we place it in here. And so now what I'm going to do is go back to our app.py. I can just see if I can import it that way. So going all the way to the top here. I'm sure there was a faster way for me to get there, but in here we are looking for this over here. And so what I'll do is I'll just place this here, And then hopefully we can actually get rid of all these and just simplify it. So we need to test this on an action that we know we use every single time, and we'll simplify that. And by the way, the code that I pasted into ChatGPT was the update profile, but I'm just going to utilize this for our activities here. So in our activities home, what I'm going to do is do an @ sign here. And we'll grab the JWT required. Okay. And well, the thing is, it actually isn't always required, because in this case, what happens is it's going to run this. So we actually do have the option of allowing something to be unverified. So maybe this isn't a good example. And the question is, could you support a decorator to have an if-else statement? I don't know. I guess what you'd have to do is, could you pass a function for it to execute if it was to go into this stage here? And that's something I don't know. So let's go back over here and change the decorator to take a function that it will execute if take an optional function as its parameter, and it should execute that function in the case of inside. Okay, let's see if it can do that. Now, just because it doesn't mean it'll actually work, but again, I don't want to spend forever to figure this out, so I'm just hoping that it will allow us to do this. I'll be back here when it finishes generating. Let's just read through here and see what it's done here. So I mean, it does look different. And then here, if on error, then execute that error. And so I'm assuming that is the function name. So we can modify the decorator to accept an optional function parameter. This function will be executed inside that. Exceptions if provided. Here's how you can do it. Now you can use this decorator and pass the optional function to be executed. So here it will say @ JWT required on error, and then it'll say handle the token error. And so yeah, maybe that's what we can do there. So let's go ahead and give that a go. So I'll go and grab this new code here. Is ChatGPT going to be useful for us today? You know, that is really the question. But, you know, you have to really know what you're doing to get the best value out of it. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to paste this in below. I don't know if it needs a different import. So it says wraps and partial. So we'll go to the top here and bring that in as well. So we'll have wraps and partial as such. And then over here on the home page, we're going to see if this will actually work. And I'm going to go down here. And so I'll make this one here, and we will just have a loose function here. I think that we can do that. We could also probably have the function within this, but I'm just not used to doing that. But also it needs to note before we actually call it. So here we'll grab this. And we'll just say default home feed. Okay. And I'm not really interested in printing anything, but what I want to do here is return this. So I'll go ahead and grab this. And I will also bring these here. Okay. And so now what we can do is, we'll take this out of here, and this, and this, and this, and possibly this. And so it should be something a lot more simplified. We'll go back over to here and see actually how it was being used in the previous one. And so it's showing it as a G here. That's interesting. So why does it do that? If we go back over here, oh, G is probably global, right? Is it a good idea to use that? I don't know. I'm not an expert in Flask, but somebody might say, hey, Andrew, you probably don't want to set that as a global, but that's how they're doing it. They're using that global function to do that. Is this a bad idea using a global? And the reason why I say that is that would it get cleared out every time? I don't know. Like, is it per session? So we'll go here and say Flask global variable. What is Flask G import G? Okay, so let's read a little bit about this. The application context is a good place to store common data during a request or CLI command. Flask provides the G object for this purpose. It is a simple namespace object that has the same lifespan as an application context. Does that mean per session? The G name stands for global, but that is referring to the data being global within a context. The data on G is lost after the context ends, and it is not an appropriate place to store data between requests. Use sessions for that. But it says between requests, which makes sense, but what would the context be? And that's what I'm trying to make sense of here. So a common use for G is to manage resources during a request. So get X creates a resource X if it does not exist. Tear down, closes, or otherwise deallocates the resource if it exists. If it is registered, it will tear it down. So yeah, I don't really understand how that works. So how does Flask context work? So let's go here, the request context. The request context keeps track of a request level data during a request rather than passing the request object to each function that returns it. The requests and sessions are proxies access instead. The lifetime, this is what I want to know. When a Flask application begins a request, it pushes a request context. When the request ends, it pops the request context in the application. So that means that the context, as far as I can tell, is going to end when the context ends, and that value will get cleared out. So it actually is okay to use that, as far as I can tell. If you are a Flask expert and you want to tell me otherwise, I'm happy to hear that, but I don't know. So we'll go here and we'll say G on this. And so now we'll be able to access that. So we'll go down to data, where's it? Data home. And what we were trying to do here is, yeah, we have the default one up here. And so this one gets called here. And then in our code back over here, the way we get the Cognito user ID was with the G value here. So we can go ahead, grab that here, and then I can just replace this as such. Since I didn't write that code, I'm very curious to go back and take a look here and just see if it's assigning that. Yes, it does, the username, right? Let's go back one step here. Claims username. Claims username. Well, the sub is the Cognito user ID, so maybe username is the same, but I would think I'd be more comfortable using the sub because username could get changed in the future, so it's probably just what we did when we were writing that. And so, yeah, I think that is what we want. So does it work? That's the important question to find out. So we will go and just down and do this up again, just because we've made some major changes. And just in case it wants this, I'm going to do this anyway. It might work without doing a down and up, but I'm just going to do it. So do that, and I'll do a compose up. And I'll be back here in a moment when that's done, okay? All right, so let's take a look here and see what's going on. Yeah, we started it back up, so we'll go back over here, refresh, and see if we run into any problems. We aren't seeing anything. That's probably not a good indicator of our implementation. But we did use ChatGPT to do it for us, so it's not a huge surprise there that it didn't work. But we'll go ahead and do view logs, and then we'll try to figure it out here. So it says request is not defined, and that makes sense. So probably the thing is that it needed the request, and it didn't know to include that here. So where this is here, we'll just do request. Hopefully that solves that problem there. Refresh that. It still doesn't work. It says Cognito JWT token is not defined. That is on line 128. So we'll go to line 128. And it's looking for this. Well, this function, does it not exist over here somewhere? Okay, so where is it over here in our original code? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for this. I'm looking for the import statement. Oh, right. So we're actually using the verify function here. Okay, that makes sense. So then down below here, instead of doing this, so don't we make an instance of this here? We do not. Let's go to the top here for a second. So they say lib here. Okay. So what I'm confused about is up here we don't, oh, it's here, right, because we call it. And we call that here. So instead of this being here, what we need to do is, I guess, have it in our decorator. So we'll cut that out. But now that means I have to replace it for everything. Well, I guess not. We'll just undo that here for the moment. And I'll copy this and I'll go above here and I'll just paste it in. And so that should possibly work. We'll just fix that indentation there so it is happy. And we'll go back here and see if that works. OS is not defined. Okay, that's fine. Import OS. We'll refresh. Oh, yeah, it worked. Okay, great. So now our refactor worked as expected. And I'd like to roll that out to everything else. So I don't think that we need this or this or this. All we need is this. That's all we want to import is that single value here. So I'm going to go back and refactor our code. And you know, if your plan is to use Envoy or something else, it is great to try to remove that code because it's going to look more close to what the refactor would be or make the refactor easier for that future step. So I'm going to just have to find where we implemented that for the home page. So we'll go over here to here, JWT required. Whoops. JWT required. And actually, we also want to get rid of that call there, here. Okay. And I'll just do JWT required. Here it is. And so we want to start implementing that in other places. So I'm going to go all the way to the top to wherever we start doing this. So this is the first case where we use it. And go ahead and grab that. And it doesn't require a parameter. And so a lot of this can just vanish and go away. So what we want to keep in here would be this part. So it just takes a little bit of work to figure out here. And instead of this is going to be g.cognitoUserID. So you can see it will reduce this code quite a bit and make it a lot easier for us to read. So we'll go to the next one. So this one is using it. This one doesn't have conditional, so we'll go here, take that out, and we will remove this part, and we'll go here and put a G on this. We'll keep going down. This one also uses it, so we'll go here and place it there. And we're looking for where this starts. So down below, we will get rid of this exception. And then for this will just be G and G. And then we'll go up here and we'll go and get rid of this. And then we'll fix indentation. The most important thing is not to over refactor your code. We can really reduce this code a lot. The issue though is that when other people are going to come in here, they're not going to remember your clever refactoring, and you might even forget it down the road. So just watch out for that. I know it's fun to make code as small as you can, but you learn over time that that's not great for maintenance long term. Sometimes verbose is better, even if it adds more work. Minutes here, it could save you hours, days, and weeks down the road for future team members and everybody else that is involved. So we are just still looking for any place where that is getting called. So here's another place. So we'll go here and we'll remove the end off of that. We'll go up here and remove this part, and we'll put the G on the Cognito user ID. We'll go down to the next place where this might be being called. Here's another one. So I want to paste that. It did not take it. So I'll just copy it here from the right and paste again. And we'll go up here and I will remove this part. Bring that back. There we go. So there's our refactor. I don't know if that's going to cause us any problems. No errors as of yet, but we'll have to watch that out when we are working on the application. And so in here, we'll just say refactor app.py, refactor JWT to use a decorator. Okay, and so that definitely did reduce our code a bit. We did also fix the pop-up. So click to close reply window. Okay, and we'll go ahead and commit that. We'll sync it. And so we'll just end that video here. I'm just trying to make the video smaller so we can kind of make it a bit easier to see what we're doing. So I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.